Hello everyone, I'm Psychotic and that's also my screen name. Okay, so over here we've got 58 durability on this one right here. So that's sending 58 through this way and 58 through this way. When it gets to this valve here, it's above 0, so the valve stays open. Now when that durability hits 0, it will close this valve, which will stop water flow, which will stop damage. And once everything is repaired and this goes back to 100, it will reopen the valve. Now going this way, so we have our signal right now, which is 56. So we have 56 coming through. Now it's above 1, which means these would be firing non-stop. So we put in a reversal here. So when 56 hits here, it turns to 0. And these are only touching here. So we send 0 through. They're doing nothing because they have a 0 value. Now when this actually hits 0, and we want it to do stuff, it'll send 0 through, closing the valve, and it'll send it here, and this will turn it to 1, which will make all 5 of these fire once, which will repair all 5 of these back up to 100%, which will change this back to 100, send the signal through, which becomes 0 again, so they will stop firing, and it will reopen the valve. That is how our circuit over here works. Now as for our circuit over here, we are sending a signal down to here, to all of these, so that they can close and open on command. So what we had to do is set up a basic timer. So we've got, here's where we're putting in our value. So this is where we reset the timer. So when we reset the timer, this here is getting a signal from this. So as long as this is less than the value over here, or I'm sorry, as long as this value is greater than the value over here, nothing will happen. It will send 0, which sends 1, which keeps the valve open because the reversal here. So it'll send 1 all the way through. And then coming from this side, we are adding whatever happens to already be in the loop, and this is ticking 1 per second. So each time that ticks, it adds 1 to the value that's coming out here. So we send 1 out. Normally it would send 0. That ticks once. So this sends 1 plus 0 becomes 1. This will read 1, and it will send 1 through and around, which means the next time it ticks, this is 1, this is another 1, adds them together, that makes it 2, sends 2 through. It'll keep doing that until it hits whatever value we put here, because at that point it becomes equal to, or potentially greater than, but mostly equal to, the signal here. So that's going to keep looping until it hits whatever we told it to here, and it's coming in here for its comparison. And when that comparison becomes accurate, so right now this is greater than or equal to this, which means this is actually putting out a 0. This is turning it into a 1, which is letting that cycle, and it's coming back around here. So when these come through, when these two added together equal what's on this, then it sends out a 0, and it's going to reverse it, or I'm sorry, it sends out a 1, and it's going to reverse it and make this 0, which is going to cut off the loop, which resets this side back to 0. So that means that the next tick of this, which would normally have been 16, is still only 1, because it's only putting out 1 each tick. So now we have 1, except it's 0 here, so we're back to 1 here, and it sends it through. Now it's also connected here, so whatever value we have here, we know it's above 1, so it's coming in here. Well, these close on 1, they open on 0. So when that 1 comes here, we don't want them to be open for the duration of the timer. We don't want them to be closed for the duration of the timer at value 1. We want them to be open. So this is sending our actual counter value through. So for each second, it's incrementing by 1. This is going to reverse it to a 0 and then send it to all of these so they stay closed, or stay open. When this sends the 0 signal, which gets reversed to the 1, closing the valve, setting this to 0, then it becomes 1 because of this, which opens them. So they are only open for the single second that we actually hit 15 and everything zeroes out. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That would have been 16, but it's now 1 and reopens them. So they are only compressing for that 1 second, which is all we need, as you can see. And the gems are getting pretty big. So that timer will have those auto-compressing for us on whatever we tell it at the keypad, which is fantastic. And then over here, we've got our value for whatever we want to cut. So any size that you want to cut, you just punch in your value here, you hit enter, you drop it here, it comes through, it gets cut, the remainder comes out here, and the part that you wanted gets spit out at your feet to be taken over for crafting. They sound more... And if you can't figure out what I'm talking about with the circuit here, that is perfectly fine. No shame. It's not for everybody. Not everybody's brain works the way mine does. Thank the Lord for that, or there would be a lot more crazy people running around. But you can look at what I've got going on and emulate it in your own games. Because if you replicate this, it will work. I am just a big fan on not just understanding that something works, but why something works, so that you can reorder it if necessary to fit your things. I had seen a timing loop. It was much bigger and less efficient than what I've got going on here, because this is essentially a 3x3 area. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3x4 area. And the one that I originally saw was in a 5x5 area. So I was able to shrink it down and get it to work. But also, he had things coming out of this side instead, so I had to understand what was happening with the signals in order to manipulate the timer to fit the way that I wanted it to. And this one is actually different than the one that I was using in my other save that I replicated here, because my connections were coming out this way instead of this way, so it was different. So, but because we understand how it works, we can turn it and manipulate it to get it to still function, but fit the shape that we more or less need. I really don't like that it's floating in the sky. I would have preferred to have it underground or at ground level, but it's there and it's working, and it means that our stuff works. So I can't be too upset about it. So if you've learned anything useful, if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Otherwise, have a fantastic rest of your day, and we will see you next time.